and a very warm welcome. You're watching World 360 with me, Akanksha Swaroop. Former US President Donald Trump is expected to surrender anytime next week after his Georgia indictment. From boom to bust, is it the end of China's growth story? And we find out why India and Russia's moon missions are critical for space policy and geopolitics. But first up are the headlines.
Russia has once again accused Ukraine of another drone attack on Moscow's financial building. There was no immediate comment from Ukraine, but officials in Kyiv have never formally acknowledged launching attacks on targets in Moscow. As US presidential candidate race heats up, Indian-American Vivek Ramaswamy has emerged as one of the strong Republican contenders challenging former US President Donald Trump. He is employing a unique strategy combining rare solution to the Ukraine-Russian war and his deeply ingrained Hindu faith. As China's economic crisis mounts, at the center of the deep debt hole are the property giants whose debt defaults have surged slowdown, with the real estate giant Evergrande now filing for bankruptcy protection. China and India have held new round of border talks days before Chinese President Xi and Prime Minister Modi head for the BRICS summit in Johannesburg. The commander-level talks is part of a continued effort to ease a 3-year-old standoff along the line of actual control.
With that, let's deep dive first on our top story that is coming from the United States. Former US President Donald Trump has abruptly cancelled his proposed press conference at which he claimed he was going to unveil a report that would clear him of any wrongdoing and charges he tried to interfere with the presidential election in Georgia. Now, this comes after the Georgia grand jury indicted the former US president concerning the efforts to overturn the 2020 election results in the Peach State. Meanwhile, police in Georgia are investigating online threats to members of a grand jury that voted to indict Mr. Trump and 18 of his allies accused of conspiring to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in the state. They have been ordered to surrender for arrest by 25th of August, where they will be booked into Fulton County Jail for mugshots and fingerprints to be taken just like any other criminal defendant, and that will also include Donald Trump. The big question we are asking is, can Trump still run for presidency even if he's convicted? And for that, let me also introduce my guest. I'm joined in by Amy Tarkanian, who's a Republican strategist and joining me live. Many thanks to you, Amy, for joining in. Now, Amy, after each criminal indictment of former US president, pundits have said something to the effect of this is the worst indictment yet. Many are now saying that Trump's 4th indictment, in fact, poses the greatest legal risk to him. Do you agree?
Yes, and the reason being is you now have a number of individuals who were so-called co-conspirators or co-defendants. So now there's not just President Trump involved, you have 18 others that have been indicted as well. This has been an over 2-year investigation that has been taking place. And so they have been talking with numerous individuals who have been connected with the numerous scenarios that are included in this indictment. The one that could be left up to interpretation is the phone call that he made to the Secretary of State of Georgia, asking to find roughly 11,700 votes. That could have been either a candidate who was in panic and just talking out loud, or it could have been a candidate who truly was putting the pressure to find these votes to change the outcome. Now, the one area that I believe he's going to find a tough time wiggling out of is the fake elector scheme. And here in the state of Nevada, we are one of 7 states that actually participated in that, unfortunately. So our leadership in the state party, they did present 6 fake electors, right, and 2 of them were subpoenaed and they were granted limited immunity. So, you know, that tells you right there that there was coordination to some extent, whether if it was directly with President Trump or President Trump's handlers or the people that he sent off to go and do the dirty work. There's going to be, I think, a lot of communication that's going to come out that will be damning.
All right.
And then you have the former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, who also has been very silent, but has now requested that this be moved from a state court to a federal court in hopes that they can have a larger juror pool to select from rather than just from Fulton County itself.
All right. Amy, now let's also talk about the polls. You know, the polls are showing that Americans are deeply divided along party lines over Trump's election cases, you know. But his Republican rivals also argue that Trump cannot win in a general election when he must compete for votes that go beyond the GOP base. How do you view this, his current standing in the upcoming general election, especially with all these cases lined up? Will he be able to woo the voters beyond the GOP base?
Well, it's very sad because I think we're in a lose-lose situation here. If you even look at polling across the board, and it doesn't matter which polling company you're looking at, the majority of voters do not want a re-election of President Biden or President Trump, and they're exhausted. They're disappointed in both of them to some degree. But still, at the end of the day, I believe if you have a redo of those two individuals, the toxicity of President Trump, the dislike, and I hate to use this word, but you know, people actually have a hatred for President Trump. I think will then put President Biden back in the White House. And it's not necessarily a vote of confidence. It's just a vote against Trump, just like how there was a vote against Hillary Clinton because she was so toxic herself and so disliked. It was literally a vote against Hillary Clinton. And that's what would happen again.
All right, Amy, I think we'll have to leave it at that.